Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the webinar on modern workplace hosted by Redington. Today, we are here to discuss and understand the significance of modern workplace as a solution being offered in Microsoft Cloud, the significance of this modern workplace in our environment, and how it has been useful to organizations, how it has helped the organizations leverage modern working and remote working seamlessly in times of pandemic. As we talk about modern workplace, we first need to know that in today's situation, the journey of digital transformation for every organization has taken a steep change in 2020, considering the fact that COVID-19 outbreak was a situation wherein there was an immediate requirement to suddenly start working remotely, to suddenly start, allowing the users to access the corporate resources from where they are, and at the same time, making sure that the security, governance, and compliance metrics of the organization are met. While these requirements were to be addressed, Microsoft 365 as a product suite came up to be the most versatile solution that can that was capable of serving every critical business need and at the same time giving the user the comfort of working from home as and when required. Today, to narrow down the modern workplace, we divide the security landscape into three different uh, elements. Number one is the identity. So when I say identity, we are talking over here about every type of user who would be accessing the corporate resources. The user can be an internal employee or an external auditor. It can be from some business partner or from an organization which is a sister concern, or it could even be the end customer who would be willing to access the resources being offered by the company. These identities, when would hit their request, they would use some or the other type of device to satisfy the same. The device could either be a laptop or a desktop, a Windows or a Mac OS, or it could be an Android or an iOS mobile device, out of which, as a part of the corporate compliance, we would probably permit a few users and restrict the other users, or let me say that we would permit some specific types of devices and restrict the remaining types of devices. And then we would define conditions to grant access to users on the restricted and unrestricted devices to use the application and data that is available either in the cloud or in the on-premise. When we actually wish to achieve this particular goal of managing all the three elements of the security landscape, it is Microsoft 365 which turns out to be the all-in-one suite to offer everything under one single umbrella. Now, while we talk about Microsoft 365 suite, it is again divided into several products, forming the complete enterprise mobility solution. All these products together bring the enterprise mobility solution under one umbrella, beginning with identity and access management for users and groups. We have threat analytics and threat protection solutions to identify how and what the user is accessing and to keep a track on the trends of the user. Mobile device and application management to keep compliance, to keep application protection and data integrity safe on the devices. We have the Microsoft Intune solution. And then we have information rights management being offered using Azure Information Protection to have the complete data in my modern workplace encrypted with the necessary logic to give an additional layer of security. All of this, when comes together, we need something really powerful in order to monitor and keep an eye on every single log being recorded in all of these products. And this is easily achievable by Microsoft Cloud Application Security Broker, which is the most powerful solution to integrate with the complete M365 suite. Not only your M365 suite, but even it can be your on-prem Barracuda, Palo Alto, Fortinet, Cisco, or any some type of service or device. Today, in our modern IT, while we are leveraging the users to work from home, we have certain user expectations that need to be satisfied with the corresponding IT challenges. Meaning, so today users are expecting to work from anywhere across any devices using familiar apps and able to share their data with the partners and co-colleagues. While the user is expecting this to happen, the IT environment is still worried about the security of the data, the security of the resources, the protection over the company data, and also not giving a full access to the users, instead giving a restricted access to this particular data while they are accessing from maybe any kind of a device. That doesn't really matter. To meet the mobile productivity challenge, the Microsoft 365 suite gives you a variety of combinations to offer to the end customer in order to make sure that we are pitching the right product to the end customer with the right pricing, with the perfect blend of the services that he is looking for, and at the same time assuring him a really, really high return on investment to make sure that the customer is satisfied with what we are offering. While we categorize these offerings, it can either be used to protect your data and files on specific apps and devices, or you can detect and protect against external threats by not allowing any user to access anything from outside, or whether you wish to only protect the user and their accounts or their identities, or do you want to allow the user to have the most broadest form, that is work securely from anywhere, anytime. It also depends on the scenario of these services as to where we are actually implementing this, whether it is within my organization, within a particular regional boundary, or whether it is extending beyond a particular country or location, and still we need to assure that the user should be allowed to access the same. So typically, to achieve our security goals, we divide the mobility landscape into four different aspects. That is the user who is accessing the device where the data is going to be accessed, the application, and the data, meaning what is going to be accessed. So typically it is who, where, and what. And all of this needs to be managed from a single point of control for every different type of user by your IT environment or your IT operations. For meeting those requirements, we have different aspects, and one of the most powerful amongst them is conditional access, which are simple if then else statements allowing you to define the condition under which you will grant access to the user or block access of a specific user. Mobile application management, which is being provided as again a part of your Microsoft 365 modern workplace. Let us consider an example that you receive an Excel sheet in an email from one of your co-colleagues in your organization. You found the information to be really good that could, you know, help you benefit in some indirect ways. You tried to copy that content and saved it in your personal device or in your personal data storage application. Sorry, but that will not be permitted. Well, you then picked up the content from the Excel and tried to paste it in Word and save that file to a personal OneDrive. This is unfortunately again not going to work. You will only be allowed to store the data in your corporate OneDrive, thereby making sure that you are not leaking any data in spite of accessing the same on your personal mobile device. What I mean to say over here is mobile application and device management services that come as a part of your current M365 suite, they allow you to access all the data anytime, anywhere, but restricting you to access the same only on the corporate approved application and on nothing else. When it comes to providing security to the identities of my environment, Azure Active Directory does not fall back from being number one and the most versatile identity and authentication solution provider across the industry. It does not restrict itself now only to Kerberos or LDAP. It goes a step beyond to offer multiple authentication methods, which are typically based on OAuth, OAuth 2, SAML, machine learning, biometrics. In other words, the complete modern authentication suite, which makes, or which I would say rather allows you to let your users go completely passwordless. At the same time, it also offers you a security aspect which is divided in three different elements again. One element is the one which will work at your application suite level, which is Office 365 Advanced Threat Protection Services. You have Azure Advanced Threat Protection Services, which will help you serve the same. on your server environment inside your domain. And then lastly, to protect the most vulnerable devices, that is the end user's endpoint, you have Microsoft Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection Services. Mind it, guys, this is not the Windows Defender that comes with Windows 10. This is an altogether different suite, like your any other antivirus suite, maybe Kaspersky or Sophos or ESET or eScan, whatever you call it. It is a completely full-fledged available advanced threat protection suite to be procured separately, or it can be a part of your modern workplace license as well. And once implemented, it again is amongst the top two cloud threat protection services that are available today in the market, connecting all the endpoints. As I mentioned, we have Microsoft Cloud Application Security that allows you to perform actions like discovering and assessing the risk in your environment, controlling the access real time, protecting your information, and detecting threats at the same time. Not only this much, it also allows you to define a category of sanctioned and unsanctioned applications in your environment. It allows you to track every single event in your Azure and Microsoft 365. And when you find that event to be suspicious, you can simply select that event and convert it to a policy for any reoccurrences happening in the future. Apart from that, we over here would also want to evaluate the region, the location from where the user is accessing the resources. So it allows us to track the public IP address, the service provider, the device from where I'm going to access the resource, the browser which I used or the application which I used. And this cloud application security, the most beautiful part of cloud application security is that it does not restrict such kind of logging and monitoring only to your Microsoft cloud solutions. It also extends to Google Cloud, to Amazon Web Services, to Box Storage, to Salesforce, Dropbox, anything which is renowned in terms of cloud in the industry. Apart from providing the complete suite at the application layer or at the files and the folders management layer, or at every single what can we say, every single layer of service that the user will be using, we are still concerned about granting access to all these resources inside our environment to directly access on the end user's machine. In order to bridge this insecurity between the end customer and the cloud solution, Microsoft hereby introduces something called as Windows Virtual Desktop. This is a solution which is already in Microsoft Cloud since quite some time now, but this is something that the end customers have leveraged the most when it comes to the current 2020 pandemic situation. Windows Virtual Desktop allows you to host desktop sessions and remote application sessions like your RDS, like your TS Web in your on-premise, and it can be as versatile as you might think of, because it is currently the most preferred desktop accessibility solution available on the cloud. The best part is it is a perfect mix of the services that we used on our Windows Server RD session host. So basically, when we talk about the Windows Server RD session host, we had certain features like multi-session legacy and Windows Server and multiple sessions and etc. etc. And on the other hand, we have a Windows 10 Enterprise Edition, which is a single session modern Windows experience. And it has a Windows 10 plus it has support for all Office 365 suite and stuff. And it's a semi-annual channel giving an update every 6 months. For the first time ever in the history of Microsoft operating systems, they have introduced something called as the Windows 10 Enterprise Multi-Session Operating System, which means you now have a client operating system giving you features of the server operating system by providing you a multi-session, highly scalable client operating system wherein we can connect good number of users together on one Windows 10 Enterprise instance. While we do this, as I say, this particular solution, once implemented, you are in the most secure zone of the Microsoft ecosystem. Why? Because you have Microsoft 365 to implement all the modern identity control solutions. You have Azure, which has some really fantastic number of compliance offerings with global cybersecurity experts, huge investment being done on leveraging every single security offering of the cloud, and then controlling all of them using your Windows Virtual Desktop, ultimately making sure that all your devices and applications are completely controlled using your Microsoft Cloud suite only. You have many customers, interestingly, who are eligible to use Windows Virtual Desktop as a part of their environment, but probably none of them are still using it. M365 E3 E5 license holders, A3 A5 student benefit holders, F1 customers, Windows 10 enterprise customers, M365 business premium customers, Windows 10 VDA per user customers. Any customers having these kind of end user licenses are eligible to redeem those licenses against the use of Windows Virtual Desktop in their environment. And customers who are using servers, if at all they have the RDS CAL licenses for running remote desktop services in their environment, for sure they can leverage these licenses in the cloud without procuring the new ones. The best part of Windows Virtual Desktop is that it is managed by Microsoft for most of the elements of it. What you control is only the client operating system and the applications that you would want to offer to the end user. It gives you some really good out of box features like dynamic resolution. What does dynamic resolution stand for? As I say that we are adapting to the modern workplace, we are not limiting the users to only access data on laptops and desktops. We are also leveraging devices like iPads and mobile phones. In that case, I am not really sure of where my end user is going to access this particular environment. Considering the fact what is being offered now is that we would have a dynamic resolution for every RDP session that is going to be taken. Meaning, if at all I am on a full desktop, my screen would look like this. The moment I try to change the size, it will adapt to my changing sizes and set the resolution accordingly. something like this. The moment I try to restore the window, it automatically picks up the resolution of that window and sets the display accordingly. Not only that, it has the capacity to get integrated with my on-device hardware and display products, display drivers, graphic cards, so that using that particular physical adapter, it will allow me to duplicate or assign a subset of monitors the way we do while projecting our own machines. To your surprise, if you're using your Microsoft Windows Virtual Desktop instance, in that case, you don't even need to install Teams on your personal laptop. Teams as an application will work seamlessly from both the virtual desktop sessions as well as from your physical hosts. Keeping this factor in mind, the next question that would come is about the latency on a video or a teleconference that is being done over Microsoft Teams. The latency is next to ignorable. Reason? Let's have an illustration over here where we are expecting two users to communicate using Microsoft Teams on WVD. Here, the latency while a user is communicating was hardly some second, which is acceptable and not noticeable as far as we are communicating distant from each other. Meaning, Microsoft Teams with unified communication platform is supported to be implemented on your WVD instance in order to make sure that the user's system can, be as basic as they have. All of this is achieved for a reason that Microsoft has the most powerful global network across any cloud and telecom provider. It has 54 plus Azure regions, giving a connectivity to more than 145 different countries, having more than 130,000 miles of fibers and subsea cables available connected across all the data centers and regions, and more than 200 plus ISP providers, or I would say internet providers or network providers, connected with Microsoft as the express route partners to facilitate connectivity between on-premise and Microsoft Cloud while they adapt to this. At the same time, we also need to look into the identity and access management that is being offered as a part of the suite. Over here, when I say identity and access management, today our classic enterprise environment, or something which was in a nutshell in my on-premise that we call today, has changed a lot. Why? Because I probably now have multiple branch offices with my servers, devices, and infrastructure available, which is now permitted to be accessed by my user over his personal mobile phone or a laptop. We have a variety of end users. They can either be my customers, they can either be my employees, they can either be my partners. Granting access to them is no easy. We optimize our operations and transform the products to suit our needs. It is now not limited to an independent cloud provider competing each other. It is today a complete unified ecosystem of multiple cloud providers, wherein the solution can be a blend of maybe an application suite from some other provider, a storage suite from some other provider, an identity from some other provider. Accessibility moving with a different type of approach altogether, wherein you have your servers, your resources being accessed, and at the same time your environment being connected and controlled using something called as the internet of things, wherein every single device within your environment will then be onboarded to the Microsoft cloud solutions in order to have your data protected over the same and the information collected to give you a common dashboard to have a look at the entire solution. So identity today becomes a control plane wherein you have Azure Active Directory, which is the cloud identity solution with multiple modern authentication methods to offer as compared to on-premise, which always used to be limited. So we have the on-premise sync happening to the Azure Active Directory. And lastly, once access to Azure Active Directory is granted, we then have the Microsoft or other cloud solutions which can then be authenticated using this particular identity, making sure that you have the best possible passwordless algorithm in place so that the user can simply use the more secure authentication method that is available. Of course, it is a blend of multiple types of BYOD devices. They may be belonging to your end users, to your partners, or to your customers. And then the most important aspect that Azure Active Directory doesn't remain limited only to providing identities created in Azure AD, but you can also have third party identities onboarded to Azure Active Directory for the user to use the same credentials to access these resources on Microsoft Cloud as well. So the journey of modern identity has changed, guys, and we have a complete, I would say, a different arena to play around with every single user identity, every single user activity, behavior, tracking, management that can be done. And all of this, to your surprise, is a part of one single suite that is Microsoft Cloud Identity and Access Management. Azure AD up till now was something which used to synchronize from your on-premise Active Directory. It now has options to even connect from disconnected directories and synchronize multiple forests to the single Azure Active Directory tenant and then grant an access of the same to users on multiple different applications and services. You have password protection policies. Like this again is one major advantage that any customer would want to look for while trying to evaluate the use of Microsoft 365 in their environment. So it gives you facilities like banning a specific set of passwords. It allows you to ban passwords based on what you type there, or maybe use a specific algorithm to ban that particular password. It is the Microsoft 365 suite which offers you multiple different types of authentication methods to go passwordless on different types of devices. So you have the Microsoft Authenticator app, which is coming on your mobile device. You have Windows Hello for Business, which typically focuses on getting your experience unified on your Windows devices as well. And then you have FIDO2 security keys, which are physical hardware based token, I would say, which can be used to authenticate and just have the security maintained in a separate hardware altogether, I would say. These features that we are talking about over here are all coming together under one single umbrella, guys, as I repeat, making it the most versatile suite that is ever available so far in the cloud solution market. Adapting to this suit is making the end customer leverage things which they never thought of having in their on-premise environment before, or in their cloud environment before. Today, Microsoft 365 has become that product which has allowed the small and medium enterprise organizations to adapt to this particular technology and have their environment running in no time, as good as and as complex as and as secure as a large enterprise would be. It gives you solutions like Microsoft Conditional Access. As I said, it is if then else statements wherein you can combine multiple statements and then define the relevant control of what should happen when the user accesses what. It has its own risk detection engine. So when a user enters a username and password to get authenticated across a directory, it will identify whether it is from an unfamiliar location or an IP address, or is the user trying to access for the first time. Or it also does offline detections like maybe a typical travel activity, a malware linked IP address, and a malicious IP address. For example, if I would right now log into the Azure portal and try spinning up a virtual machine out there in the central US, using this identity and access management solution, the moment I take the remote of that VM and try to authenticate inside the VM, it will give me an error stating that your sign-in was blocked due to an impossible travel activity. Now, to my surprise, I am sitting at a location and trying to access the resource from where I am. But what does it mean by an impossible travel activity? It means I first logged into the UAE on the Azure portal, and now the same identity is being used to log in on a VM instance that is hosted in Central US or West US within a span of 15 minutes, meaning this was an offline UAE to US impossible travel activity within a span of 15 to 20 minutes, thereby blocking the access for that user against that resource. Detections of activities, as I told you, all the activities will be tracked and recorded in our MCAS, Microsoft Cloud Application Security, and then you have data sharing, may that be in terms of an email or it may be a file over SharePoint that is being shared by the user. And while the user is doing that, we can also identify whether the user is signed in to access the encrypted document or not, or whether are the credentials leaked by the user. All of this is physically tracked, and you can also have an email or an SMS based notification enabled for these kind of solutions. And altogether, this forms the user risk engine of identity and access management in the Microsoft Cloud. This was a short summary on how and what are the varied offerings that we have from the modern workplace in Microsoft 365. Apart from this, if we even wish to discuss about the actual number of services that are there, it might take us days and weeks to talk over. So this was a short walkthrough on how modern workplace is significant in today's date and how Microsoft 365 has been helping us to do this. Should you now have any questions, let us address them, and post the questions being addressed. If we by any chance have any queries at a later stage that need to be addressed, you can definitely get in touch with us at Redington or at our email address, which I will shortly mention in the chat window. And once we have this done, should you have any customers Microsoft 365 queries or modern workplace enablement insecurities that need to be addressed, feel free to revert to us and we will make sure to help you in any manner we can. This brings us to an end of the short walkthrough. We can now have a question and answer on this understanding that we have just done. I hope it was a good time for you to know the new technology or the understanding on Microsoft 365 Modern Workplace. Thank you very much for your precious time. We can now have the questions that need to be answered. All right, guys. Thank you very much for attending the webinar. We will be winding up for now. Thank you. Bye
Thank you so
bye.
much, Ronak. Thank you.